On April 16, 1862, Congress passed legislation freeing all enslaved people in the District of Columbia. African Americans from Virginia and elsewhere flocked to the city in search of work and shelter. Already struggling to meet the needs of their impoverished residents, by the fall of 1862, the modest freedmen's camps which the government had erected in the city were overwhelmed. After President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all enslaved people in the Confederate States January 1st, 1863. Overcrowding and steadily deteriorating conditions in the Washington camps drove military authorities to look to create a new camp for contrabands outside the city. Removed from Washington and occupied by the Union Army since the start of the Civil War in 1861, Arlington emerged as a sensible choice for the new camp. On May 5, 1863, Lieutenant Colonel Elias M. Green, Chief Quartermaster of the Department of Washington, and Danforth B. Nichols of the American Missionary Association officially selected the Arlington estate as the site for Freedman's Village, which they intended to be a model community for freed persons. Within a few weeks, 100 formerly enslaved people settled on the chosen site located about a half mile to the south of the Arlington mansion. For many abolitionists and some in the government, Robert E. Lee, as the leading Confederate general, came to personify slavery and unrealized freedom for millions of African Americans in America. The use of his home as a camp for free persons was thus thought to be very appealing and appropriate by many in the North. As it developed, the design and layout of the Freedman Village was intended to create a climate of order, sobriety, and industry. An 1865 plan of the settlement shows a very organized community with over 50 residences, a hospital, kitchen mess hall, schoolhouse, laundry, amongst other structures, neatly arranged around a central pond. The village turned into a semi-permanent settlement, and the government developed facilities and infrastructure to support the several thousand residents. Able adult tenants who did not have to work elsewhere worked on the government farms which occupied the acreage surrounding the village at Arlington. In exchange for their work, the laborers were paid $10 per month, half of which were required to pay to a general fund to maintain the village. Some free persons viewed this rent, which ranged from $1 to $3 per month, as an unnecessary burden on their quest to gain self-sufficiency and protested by refusing to pay the required sum. Residents were also expected to pay for the improvements to the property. Despite these difficulties, rents became a constant of life in the village over time. By the late 1880s, when eviction was inevitable, the residents continued to fight, electing a committee to petition the government regarding their unique situation. John Syphax, whose mother had been enslaved at Arlington, was chosen to present the committee's views to the Secretary of War. In a letter to the Secretary in 1888, Syphax asserted that the freed persons of Arlington should be compensated for the improvements which they had made to the property and requested a settlement of $350 for each homeowner on the estate. The government would eventually compensate the residents $75,000, the appraised value of the dwellings on the property in 1868, and the contraband fund tax, which had been collected during the Civil War, and finally closing Freedman's Village in 1900. Many left Freedman's Village and purchased land throughout Arlington, especially in the three major African American neighborhoods of Halls Hill, Johnson Hill, and Green Valley.